Look at us, huh?
I think we might be live, actually.
Oh, are we? Okay.
I think that's just how that transitions
Is
sometimes.
that the intro?
You never know. Yep. Hit the button
Good.
sometimes, and it just goes right to us. So welcome back to Midwest eSports F1, week 8 of action, and we're covering Division 1 once again. We covered them last week, had some very intense action, so we're back again to see what happens in the Netherlands.
I have to compose myself. Yeah, Zandvoort is quite, I mean, what an intro for the Dutch track, right? It is as crazy as it comes. This track is as much of a go-kart, slot car track as you can get. It is super technical, a lot of fun to drive, but I have never competed on this track in an official league. So I have no idea what stress, what nerves go into the preparation for this track. I've done a lot of time trials, and I've done a lot of very basic beginner arcade races at Zandvoort. But yeah, we are in for quite a treat today.
Yes, and we already have some comments coming in. We had some from Valentine that he said he can't stress enough the appreciation to see this kind of passion put into the league. So we love those comments. It's what we love to do. We love to just put all that we can into creating some really fun esports streams like this.
Yeah, we are still trying to hold on to our teenage years, playing video games and enjoying watching real athletes perform at their level and perfecting their craft. We like to believe that we're good racers, but we just can't compete with these guys that you're about to see here.
No, that's why we started doing it in Steep and Riders Republic. We're not great at the game, so we watch great people do amazing things and comment on it. I just started a racing league in Gran Turismo Endurance last week.
Yeah,
in the first lap, spun myself out somehow.
Oh, no.
No one hit me. Dirty air, maybe. Got a little eager on the corner, spun out, hit the wall, damaged the car, had to go into the pits, misclicked intermediate tires on a sunny day. Misclicked again to not repair the damage to my car. So then I had to pit again on the next lap. So I started off a 2-hour endurance race, 2 laps behind. That's why we do commentary.
All right, but the most important part, where'd you finish?
I gained 1 position like an hour and 45 minutes in. So we got 12th place, baby.
I mean, that's better than DNF in the first lap.
I didn't quit. That's my claim to fame. I will not quit.
Yes, we love it. We love it here. And we may see track limits is always an issue with tracks like this one. Like we said, it is very windy, very bendy, twisty. So once you get 2 cars, 3 cars wide, someone's going to inevitably be pushed off the track. Hopefully we don't see any during qualifying here. But yeah, the worst case scenario is you DNF and you cannot enjoy this race. But we saw some drivers last week suffered some of the same fates as Mitch did in his first GT race last week, where they were spun out, they hit a wall, something happened to the car, but they were able to come back and actually place. One of those drivers, being Aero Racing, was able to come back and claim a podium spot. What an absolute drive from Aero last week.
He is closing in very, very quickly on Scarenzi too. So after tonight, he might be able to take first place. I believe he is only 23 points behind Scarenzi. So depending on, I think that's maybe 6 position difference, and he would actually close that gap. And then Posh Josh is in third. He's at 535. So he's about 80 points out of second place. However, Haas has made a big jump as of the result from last week's race. Their other driver, Race Day, is in 11th overall in the Drivers' Championship. And for Aston Martin, NLR No Jug is down in 18th. So we've seen some shifts over the past few weeks. With teams changing position in the Constructors' Cup, it's settled down a bit, but it did change last week.
Yeah, let's take a look. Yeah.
Wanted to pull this up, make sure we have it. We now have a beautiful graphic showing, starting in week 1, we had Alpine in first place in the Constructors' Championship, followed by Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri. Aston Martin, however, made a big jump in week 2, all the way up into second place. Some other shifts a little bit further down the grid. And then in week 3, Aston Martin took over first place. Red Bull Racing moved up into third. And then we saw AlphaTauri jump into third place to knock off Red Bull Racing. McLaren starting to move up, down lower. Week 5, Alpine moved back into first place with 799 points. Week 6, AlphaTauri jumps over Aston Martin, Haas jumps over Red Bull Racing, and then in Week 7, only move is Haas jumping over Aston Martin and closing in on AlphaTauri. So we have seen a big shakeup from the beginning of the season. The bottom of the pack has stayed relatively similar, but it is getting much closer up top, especially in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th place.
Yeah, unfortunate to see Aston lose that position, but Haas definitely deserved it again. Another great performance by Posh Josh last week. I don't have the completed grid order from Spain pulled up right now, but Posh Josh securing 3rd or 4th place, I believe, in last week's race, making it look easy for the Haas. Looks like
had a McLaren move up too. Houdini is now 4th place in Division 1 for the Drivers' Championship. So even though team-wise they're down in 7th place, they have a driver in 4th. These points are relatively close, so there still is a lot of movement left to happen.
Well, it looks like the drivers are readying up in Zandvoort. This 4.259 kilometer track boasting 14 insane, just absolutely wicked, devious corners, including an 18-degree banked track. I don't believe that is the one titled Tarzan, but I do know that the banked corner, I believe it's turn 3, surpasses the steepest bank at Indy by a couple of degrees. So this is a serious bank. The actual F1 teams are competing in in the Netherlands this upcoming weekend. Practice starts tomorrow, and you were seeing a lot of pictures on social media of the drivers, the new drivers like Oscar Piastri and his team, walking the track and taking a second to do the Michael Jackson lean on the pinnacle, the top of that banked corner, just to give you a perspective of how absolutely steep that is. Mitch, I don't know if you have ever, we're in the US, we're in the land of NASCAR. I don't know if you've ever visited a NASCAR track, but my folks live not too far from Charlotte Motor Speedway in North Carolina, and we had an opportunity to take a couple of laps in a Ford panel van, like a Ford Transit van, around that track, and hitting it at 25 mile an hour in one of those corners. You are rolling to the one side of the van, but at speed, when you have the G-force pulling you into the pavement, it feels like nothing. It feels like you're just kind of banked in your seat. Those racing seats with the side buckets really help out, but incredible to see these cars handle that kind of corner at those kind of speeds. Very difficult to maintain a racing line through a technical section like that, and we have 2 of them in Zandvoort.
Yeah, it is just such a weird thing to see in Formula One racing. I mean, normally it's something you see in NASCAR, you see it in Indy tracks. There's just these sweeping banks. You get into bobsled territory where,
honestly,
you're no longer worried about actually sliding up the car. You're just worried like you're pushing your back and your head and your spine into the floor of your seat. And that's a force that the drivers aren't really used to. They're used to their legs shifting left and right as they're driving. You can see that in some of the onboard cameras they put in the cars, where when they turn a hard right, you see their knees being jammed to the left inside that seat and their feet kind of angled on the pedals. But now that you have these banking corners, I mean, now you're starting to bottom out a little bit. I know when I ride roller coasters, sometimes I start to feel it in those kind of corners where you start to come back up. So that can have a different impact, especially on those rookies.
Yeah, well, we are hearing from a few of the race director has given us the weather forecast for today's race, qualifying and race. Again, the Division 1 Formula 1 MidWest eSports series features a short qualifying session, which is just one 15-minute qualifying session. But much like Spain, we will be getting some weather, some rain will be making its way through the course in qualifying. However, it looks like we are going to have a dry race today. So another difficult qualifying session, but it should be followed up with a very exciting race.
I'm also interested because Scavney sent the message wet to dry 1 minute ago, and he's been out on the track for over a minute. So was he texting this message to us while he was doing his outlap, or was it just before he pulled out of the pit?
This is a wonderful time for a texting while driving PSA.
Yes, especially a Formula One card. Just because you're on a closed track, you don't want to. We saw it last week. We saw if you crash in qualification, you can DNF at a qualification and not be able to set another fast time, and then you just have to hope that nothing else happens. But Scavney looks like he just set a fast time on Sector 2. He's going to be the first one to put down a lap time in qualification on the soft tires, and then we'll see where the rest of the grid, because we have almost every driver out on the track right now.
Sorry, slightly distracted. I was looking for an official PSA for texting and driving, but I will leave you with this one sentence. There's no next if you text.
Thank you for the update. That's it. I thought
Pick it up. Segue from nothing.
I was expecting, at least 10 seconds of a gap that I could think of how to respond. But Aero Racing Design, thankfully, gives me something to talk about. He has taken the fastest lap right now with a 1:08.98. And he was our winner last week, so he is looking to go back-to-back in these races.
Yeah, again, Aero Racing gunning for that top spot. It would be the first time this season that Aero sees the first place in the drivers. Very exciting for Aero. Again, making up, I forget offhand how many spots he made up in last week's race, but it was significant. I believe he fought back at least 5 or 6 positions to land on that podium.
It was a big climb. I know a lot of people who finished at the top of the leaderboard last week had moved 5 positions or more up from qualification. So there were massive shakeups on the grid.
Screnzi, though, right on his heels. Not quite enough to do it just yet, but that 109.085 is looking mighty fine as an early lap set. Again, we have 13 minutes remaining in Q1, our one and only qualifying session for today's race. And you will see most of these drivers pushing later in the session, but if weather is coming through, we may be seeing some very quick laps, much like Gott Palmer's right there in the Williams.
He was another driver that made some big moves last week. Another name that we're, as we cover more of these races, I know we'll be more and more familiar with the drivers, and we'll, have more background on what they've been doing in the past races. He did very well last week too, and now he's taken, 0.6 seconds, so 0.6 of a second lead for pole position.
And thank you very much to everyone in the live stream chat. If you care to let us know where you're listening, watching, enjoying from, please let us know down below. Hey, Sloth. Hey, Mama Bell. Hey, Coach. What's going on, everyone?
It's cool to see a lot of our family, our friends love to watch these things too. So they'll get Snapchats of us on the TV or the stream on the TV. And it's always weird to see something like that. And Cali Rob right now just going out for another lap. Wasn't able to improve too much on his time.
Yeah, Cali Rob very low in last week's. Here we go. Finished rather low in last week's race, but that is not a detractor. Wow, I'm sorry. I'm talking out my butt. He finished 7th place last week. That's totally fine. 7th place is competitive.
Who was it? I think maybe Max Verstappen or another interview. No, Fernando. I was listening to his podcast. He did like a 50-minute interview, which was fantastic to listen to. And he, when he was growing up, was told, if you're not first place, you're last. He finished second in one of the first major events he raced in, was very excited. And when he got back to the garage, the owner kind of pulled him aside and said, happy that you're happy, but that's not really how it works on racing teams. So you might want to tone it down a little bit for now.
Another racing legend lived by that motto, a one Richard Bobby. Incredible storied NASCAR driver, invented the shake and bake, actually. But yeah, if you're not first, you're last. And yeah, I believe it was Jos Verstappen who told Max that second place is just the first loser. So very competitive. Not sure how competitive the mindset is here in MidWest eSports Formula One Division 1 racing. Looks like a lot of these guys are friends, not only in the game, but in real life as well. We had a couple of folks last week swapping out equipment. I believe it was Edwin's in the Mercedes. Edwin had a PS5 fan issue that he had to swap out for somebody else on the grid, their PS4. So they ran it over to their house so they could compete in last week's race. Not sure what console Edwin is racing on this week, but that just shows that there is some camaraderie. They do care about one another, and it's all for the love of the sport.
Yeah, and Posh Josh, we just watched complete a lot too, doesn't improve on his original time. It is interesting to see that a lot of the drivers have that feeling or were taught that from a young age. I know a lot of sim racers don't always feel that way. I know myself, I'm just happy when I don't finish last. That's kind of my goal. If you're not last, you're first, maybe might be my motto. Don't want to be the worst driver out on the grid. But it's cool to see them improve every single time. And these guys, if they're racing in Division 1 of MidWest eSports, there are 4 active divisions right now, which means if they're on Ferrari, we're watching Scavney right now. He's one of the top 2 out of 8 drivers that Ferrari has out there on the grid.
Yeah, a phenomenal accomplishment nonetheless to be featured in Division 1. Division 1 is Division 1 regardless of where it is, as we see one of the, I believe it was Callie Robb, heading into the pits for some slight tweaks, modifications, to see if he has any pace to catch Gott Palmer up there in the Williams. Still sitting pretty with a 1:08.39, 1:81.
381.
Very small on my screen.
So Nick is watching off of my computer through Parsec, so the numbers might be a little fuzzy, and that's where I can come in and help him out. We're watching Scarenzi just about to complete his lap, and he takes second place. He gets a 1:08.631. He is the current driver champion in the league with 633 points. But Aero Racing is in 5th place right now for qualification. He is the man challenging him. And then Posh Josh currently in 10th in the Haas, about middle of the pack. But Haas has been making the big moves for the constructors. And his teammate Race Day is up in 7th. So that could be a big jump for the team.
Track still looks dry. Looks like all of the drivers are still sporting soft tires out there. So there is plenty of time remaining in qualifying for those big players to move their way up through the pack as we take a look at Houdini, who finished in an impressive 4th place in Spain in that McLaren.
And we watched him pull into pit lane. I always get excited seeing that final corner, but we don't know when they're stopping to pit. We don't have driver radio where we can hear the radio say box, and we know that they're going to pull in. So, yep. Oh, we need that soundboard for next time and just maybe make up some team radio.
I'm here for it. I can pull out the synthesizer and come up with something. It'll just be like a key down. It'll be a little detuned so Formula One can't copyright us.
I'm sure they would not care at all. We also have Bone Crusher that has just joined. So we have, I think, all 3 of our executive producers. You can see their 24s next to their name. Been supporting us for 2 years and more on this channel. So once again, we can't thank them enough because they give us the energy and the support to keep putting all of our heart into these different events that we do.
Yeah, and if shameless plug here, if you would like to become a member and support these live streams with a small monthly donation, contribute to the fun of Nick and Mitch, Formula One on Nick and Mitch, you can hit join on our YouTube channel. You can also just hit subscribe for completely free to stay up to date on all of the latest and greatest coming out of our Riders Republic series, our weekly vlogs, along with our weekly Formula One races. We have a couple of caution flags. Yellows are popping out all over the track, which can only mean one thing: these drivers are starting to push.
They are, and we saw GSR Edwin improve on his sector and moves up into 3rd place over NLR Mackie in the Aston Martin by just 0.05 of a second. Starting to get close out here in the pack. Drivers are warming up. Gott Palmer did improve on his time too and got to a 1:08.298. So the first one that's under 0.3 of a second.
I am very surprised to see Lansley back in 6th after a very impressive finish in the top 5 in Spain last week. But that position belongs to NLR Mackie, who we take a look at right now in that second Aston Martin. Again, sitting pretty. No, sorry, they're not sitting pretty on top of the champion, the constructors.
More just that you're thinking of, the driver champion.
Renzi.
There's a lot of teams, a lot of names that we're learning here. Lancey out in the Red Bull, just starting his lap to see if he can improve on his time. And a lot of drivers have been going in to get that fresh set of soft tires and start to heat up for their final attempt to take pole position.
Who are we missing from today's race? We have 18 drivers, but we do have 10 clubs racing. trying to do some quick math here to figure out. Looks like we're missing a Williams and
a Mercedes. Looks like a Mercedes.
Yep. Okay.
We are good at puzzles that are built for second graders.
We're missing the Johnny Damon in the Mercedes and Guitar Man Khan in the Williams. Sorry that they could not be here today. Hopefully they're able to catch the stream and still hear their shout out. They're also Division 1 drivers, but hey, life catches up every once in a while and takes precedence. So all good. Hope they're doing well, and we'll see them in next week's race.
Absolutely. And Scarenzi is out there trying to improve his time, but he is over 2 seconds behind after Sector 2. So probably pretty rare that he's going to improve on that coming into these final corners. We can see who is behind him, though. I see a shiny blue that would be Aero Racing Design, seeing if he can get up closer to the top for the starting grid.
Again, as we know, it's anyone's call as to what is going to happen during the actual race. Your grid position is only that. It is just your starting position. Anything can happen once this race starts, and we start to factor in things like pit stops and accidents. They do happen. Shunts will be a factor in today's race, as again, we have two incredibly banked, very difficult corners to deal with here in the Netherlands.
More drivers pulling into the pits. I was beginning to think that I had the same luck I do in real life when I pull up to a toll booth or to Border Patrol and pick the slowest lane possible. I seem to pick the drivers that are pulling into the boxes. Valentine commented in the YouTube chat that Max's lap time challenge is 1 minute 13 seconds on this track, and these guys are doing 1:08. Absolutely insane that Max driving, I believe from the challenge, driving in F123 is putting down a 1:13 on his home track. And these guys are just doing 1:08s, no assists, nothing.
That is absolutely breathtaking. I do not have words for that stat right there. That is phenomenal. Yeah, especially like you said, with none of the assists on, other than I believe they're allowed to have an automatic gearbox.
Yes.
But no traction control, no brake assist, none of that. These guys are racing raw, and this is pure talent, pure memorization of the track.
Seeing in the driver's chat too from Scarenzi saying to Gunner that was unfortunate. We maybe have missed something on the track, maybe a collision or a spin or a car into the wall, but no one has DNF'd yet. We've got about 2.5 minutes, so drivers are getting out there to heat up their tires, put their final lap, maybe 2 laps of qualification out. But as it stands right now, we have got Palmer in the Williams in pole position with a 108.298, and then Scarenzi with Aston Martin, GSR Edwin with Mercedes, NLR Mackie with Aston Martin, and then Race Day with Haas for the top 5.
That is quite a commanding lead for the Williams. Mitch, like we discussed last week during qualifying, if you had a seat in today's race, what is your strategy that you're discussing with your pit crew? Do you start today's race? We know it's going to be dry. We know it's going to be warm. We're in the middle of sand dunes here in the Netherlands. Do you start on mediums and try and go for the endurance start of the race, or do you go softs, try and rip it, and get as far away from the pack as possible?
We'll have to see. I think they said weather is wet to dry, so you might be starting on wet tires at the start of this race.
Oh, I assumed that was just qualifying. I'm sorry.
We'll find out whenever the race starts, whether it's raining or not. Our intro graphic might be wrong. We didn't record it from the game. We made it a few hours ago, so it will look sunny in the Netherlands. It's old footage. But if it's rain tires, they are going to stay out there for quite a while. I do tend to try and go a little bit slower at first and just kind of survive the beginning of the race, try and get a pace, get a little bit of a gap, and then once I'm feeling more comfortable on the track, I tend to try and put on the softer tires closer to the end when feeling confident and have the space to really push the car.
Yeah, for a track like this, I definitely don't want to be worrying about tire degradation in the first sections of this race. So yeah, like you, I would go with either a hard or a medium to start this one. Looks like the Alpine of Nikki 6-4 is out for qualifying. That's unfortunate. Again, not sure what was going on there. Posh Josh as well is grayed out for qualifying.
We also just had GSR Edwin and the Mercedes take over pole position for 14 100ths of a second difference.
I failed math. You're on your own for that.
I was confusing the 8.94 and the 9.8. We got there, though. GSR Edwin taking pole position. Got Palmer will be out on the track trying to improve and take that back. 2.9 seconds slower than his fastest right now, so it won't happen on this lap. Don't know if he's going to get another one in either because the clock, we have 3 minutes remaining, it looks like, so he might. He's going into pit.
Interesting.
He might not get another one. I'm not sure because we're getting finish lines. NLR Mackey has finished, so the best he can do is third. Drivers will be kind of coming over for their final laps here. Scarenzi also finishing with a 108.613, so the Aston Martins right now sitting third and fourth.
Yeah, and as we wrap up, again, not the grid order that we were expecting for today's race. Scarenzi absolutely still in contention here from the start of the race. If he's able to get a big enough bounce, he may be able to compete for a grid podium position. But Aero Racing, sitting second in the drivers right now, has quite a mountain to climb from seventh.
A lot more drivers pulling into the pits too, so we might be closing in on the final standings for this race. Not 100% confident with how the time remaining happens here, because normally once you hit 0 seconds in a qualification like this, I believe the leader gets to finish their lap, and then everyone else, the final lap starts ticking.
Let's see if we can do this. Boop, boop, boop. We have word from the Williams garage. Rip to Edwin 3 up in the Mercedes in pole position as it stands. Other drivers, Mackey giving credit in the team, in the racer chat, to Edwin in pole position.
Yeah, so it was funny to see the drivers talking. We did hear earlier too that it was a little bit of a collision. It looks like it disappeared now. I saw it earlier, but the two drivers that we were talking about earlier, Scarenzi and Gunner, I believe Gunner spun out and hit Scarenzi. That's going to do it, though. We have the pole position with GSR Edwin in the Mercedes, followed by Gott Palmer with Williams and NLR Mackey in the Aston Martin, and then Haas race day 2016 jumping up into fourth. It is about time to kick off the Dutch Grand Prix here on Nick and Mitch.
Nestled among the sand dunes of Zandvoort in the Netherlands, we find ourselves at the storied home of Dutch motorsport. This 14-corner, 4.25 kilometer circuit more so resembles a roller coaster than an F1 venue. With a layout that makes less sense than pickles on pancakes, we are truly in for a treat tonight. Following a thrilling race in Spain, we have to ask the question, is this the week that Aero Racing can claw his way to the top of the points? After that qualifying session, it's anyone's guess. Here we go again. We're back with MidWest eSports Formula One Division 1 on Nick and Mitch.
And as we come down to pit lane, it is just dumping buckets on these fans, but they don't care. They're Dutch. They're from the Netherlands. They're still wearing T-shirts and button-down shirts and just pretty much everything except rain jackets and umbrellas.
I'm not sure if it's a native Dutch saying, but it's definitely from the region. Hey, there's no such thing as bad weather, just poor clothing or just poor outfits. But it's something along those lines.
And this is going to obviously impact the start of the race. They are going to be out on those wet tires or intermediate tires. We'll see that as they start. I imagine with how much rain's coming down, it will probably be wet tires.
Yeah.
And then this race should shift to dry. So that'll start to play into strategy of when people want to pit and put on tires and what they're going to put on. You stay out on the rain tires a little bit longer until the track's fully dry and then go to softer medium, or do you, as soon as you can, try to put on some hard tires and then ride out the rest of the race?
Right. It will also play into factor track temperature. After coming out of rain, the track will be much cooler than expected. So the grip on softs may not be as grippy as they want. So it's all going to come down to the downforce packages that these drivers have brought today. This is going to be a very difficult race on those front brakes. It's really going to be threading the needle through to the finish line for this one.
I'm also interested to see how the rain is affected in the bank corners. In real life and real tracks, you would see obviously the water pooling down to the bottom. So you might want to stay a little higher on those bank corners, but then you run the risk of going over and just launching your car over the bank and just off the track and just causing a nightmare for you and your team.
Yeah, I have not been in the F1 sim racing scene that long to know how the water physics affect. I know the big deal in iRacing right now is that the water physics are getting a massive overhaul. So things like that, like pulling and different track conditions, will be more realistic in iRacing. But this is F123, so it will be very interesting to see how these drivers are affected by the rain physics in these bank corners, like Mitch said.
I can also tell anyone out there who might consider playing Gran Turismo 7, if you think you can drive in the rain without wet tires, don't. Just go to the pits. Just go as slow as possible, because that car will handle like a wet bar of soap in a wet bathtub. You will not be able to control anything about it.
It sounds like you had a bad experience recently on wets in GT7.
I've had several. We'll just go with that. That's why I'm always excited to watch the professionals race, because those guys can actually get wheel to wheel, toe to toe, overtaking in the corners, overtaking in the straights, everything crazy that you love to watch in real life. These guys will be pulling off here in F123.
While we wait for the grid to sort themselves out and for the lights to be lit, Mitch, do you have any predictions on today's race? And chat, this goes for you as well. Shout out and let us know which driver you think is going to be hoisting this trophy in the Netherlands in just about an hour and a half's time.
Well, I am thinking, GSR Edwin has pole position. Doesn't mean much, I would say. Obviously, you have the best chance of winning. We're going to start, and we'll see what happens in this first corner, because Gott Palmer is in second place, and I believe he's on the inside. And with the wet tires, it looks like GSR Edwin might be able to squeak that out. Let's go on board with Gott Palmer. He does. We already have a caution flag out. We have Helgelin in the McLaren doing a nice 360, but able to recover the car. He's going to have to catch up with the rest of the pack.
There was also some very squirrely navigation from Callie Robb, able to make it past Aero Racing up into 6th place just there, but into turn 1, Callie Robb had some very, very squirrely issues on the inside of that corner. This is, I do not envy these drivers right now.
Yes, and we have 36 laps on this track. Amazon, thankfully, provided us some nice graphics on potential tire strategies. They showed the intermediate tires for both stints. I believe if this goes dry, we won't see that. So Amazon can't predict everything, but they give us a good look that you could be able to get maybe 18, maybe 25 laps out of these tires.
Now, even though Kylie Robb back in 6th was able to pass Aero Racing was able to put up a bit of a fight, but it looks like that lead is increasing for the Ferrari.
However, we do have Callie Robb getting close to NLR Mackie, and we do have both Aston Martins in 4th and 5th, so they could have some good team play happening where, those drivers can kind of shuffle around, they can get close to each other if Callie Robb isn't able to overtake him, or if Scarenzi doesn't start to pull away. We already see a 1.4 second gap between the two Astons.
Look at how careful these drivers are being in these corners. You do not see braking like this on dry, of course, but this is just egregious weather to be driving these cars in. These are basically jet engines without wings, and we're putting him on an ice rink right now. So,
it's going to be interesting. Predictions coming in. Bone Crusher thinks that Race Day will win the race. Thinks Edwin's going to get a little bit comfortable and slip out. That would be really interesting to see, because right now Haas is in 3rd. Posh Josh is in 3rd overall in the drivers, but Race Day is down in 11th. If he can walk away with a win, Haas could jump up into 2nd, maybe even 1st, depending on the points.
After some very interesting traffic there in the back of Sector 3, Callie Robb is now in 5th place, passing not only the Williams of Gott Palmer, but the Alpine once again of Aero Racing Design. Callie Robb having quite a race, and we're only 2 laps in.
Yeah, here we go. Possible strategies with one stop or two. GSR Edwin setting the fastest lap at a 1:28.14. Race day still keeping pace with him, though. He's at only 0.6 behind, and he's going to have the DRS too. So, I mean, out of anyone, he has a chance to overtake. You can see how kind of deep this bank is, and you have to be extra careful. A little bit of a snap on the wheels as he exits the corner.
We have another caution in Sector 1 that may throw us into a safety car situation as the McLaren once again spinning out in the Tarzan turn.
And the McLaren is out of the race. It looks like it was an intense collision between these two drivers. VTEC taking a penalty, so he may have caused that. Again, something those stewards of the league can review after the race is over, see both drivers' footage, see the broadcast, and determine what happens.
Unfortunate. Yeah, we knew that Helgian was having some issues with that McLaren. Wonder if that was due to setup or, if there were any outside factors. If there was contact and that was the cause, very unfortunate. You hate to see that, especially this early in the race. But that just means that Houdini has a lot more weight on his shoulders to move up through this grid, currently sitting at 15th behind Nikki in that second Alpine.
There is still a lot of room to go, and we can pull up the gap from the leader. VTEC in last 17th right now, 22 seconds behind the lead. Not too big of a spread right now. It is only 3 laps into the race. We have lost Helgelin in the McLaren. We do have a virtual safety car, so people can catch up a little bit. You do have to maintain a bit of the gap that's set on your computer. And it looks like the virtual safety car is gone. We are back under green flag, so back to racing action. I was also just thinking, too, you know how everyone loves the sound of rain and helps put them to sleep? I can't imagine how peaceful it is having the rain sound and F1 cars just jetting by your window.
Sure. Are you talking as a spectator, like having a house up on the hill? Or are you talking sitting in the cockpit of one of the cars?
Either one. I mean, maybe just falling asleep at night. In the summertime, you leave your window open, listen to the rain, listen to the noise. Yeah, nice to have an F1 car or two going by your house at 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, when I think of a nice nap in the middle of a summer day, I think of F1 cars going 200 mile an hour past my house, shaking the very foundation. We're on board now with the second place drivers champion sitter right now, Aero Racing Design in 4th, trying to make a move, if they can, on Mackie.
And he, again, that was a corner we saw someone else have a wheel snap happen just a few laps ago, which lets Gott Palmer close the gap on Aero Racing Design. Seeing a bit of a train forming here between him, Aero, and Mackie in the Aston Martin. And Aero Racing started to slide, but was able to control the car. Very impressive to catch that in the rain. It's got to be tough trying to pass someone. You got to really be brave to try and pass in the rain, in these bank corners, on a relatively short track.
Oh, it has to be darn near impossible. And like we said, here we go. Just not enough. Looks like Aero is able to defend as we head down into... that was an incredible defensive move. But Gott Palmer able to slide by on the inside there. What a transaction.
Yeah, beautiful, nice little back and forth. We also have some action, it looks like, happening between Posh Josh Lancey and Sharia, the 2 Red Bulls trying to hold off the Haas. So we're seeing these teams starting to get broken up. Callie Robb has snuck in between the 2 Aston Martins. Posh Josh is looking to break in between the 2 Red Bulls and kind of split up these teammates so that they can divide and conquer.
I wonder if there's any strategy from these Red Bulls to maintain 1 and 2 positioning here. You always run that risk in the rain of potential contact, especially when you have a Haas pushing up right behind you. Another fastest lap now set by Race Day 2016 with a 1:20.561.
And they were back-to-back fastest laps. I didn't even catch who got the first one because race day immediately, it must have been GSR Edwin. He would have crossed the line first, and then race day said, no, thank you. I had DRS, and I was right behind you that entire lap, so I got a bit of an edge on there.
Speaking of someone with DRS, we also have Scarenzi still in that third place spot. Our current driver's champion, just 0.6 seconds off of second place.
And he is above everyone else that's closing in on him in the Drivers' Championship. So third place wouldn't be bad for him. However, Aston Martin needs some more points. But with NLR Mackie in fifth place in this race right now, that's going to help out quite a bit.
That was a weird corner taken by Lansley, and it looks like,
bit of contact.
Posh Josh trying to make a corner, trying to make a turn in the corner, but Lansley wanted to have the last word. Fortunately, Posh Josh was able to correct and straighten all that out. We have a Haas in ninth.
A Haas in ninth place, in between the Red Bulls. Now looking very good for Haas right now for those Constructors' Championship points. We have a second place and a ninth place. That's going to help boost the team if they're able to hold this out for the rest of the race.
Yeah, my dad, I believe my dad lives like 40 minutes away from Gunther Steiner down in North Carolina. I wonder if he can get him on the horn and have him come over to watch this race. Seeing two Haas's in the top 10 is quite a sight to behold if you are following the actual F1 season. But this is anything but, and these Haas's are commanding this track at the moment.
I would be worried about that because you might see Haas signing 2 new drivers for the next season. Or were they the ones that just signed today? 2 drivers got extended. I believe it may have been Haas, actually.
Valentine pointing out that I may be mispronouncing Lancey's name. So please let me know how to say their name. We, of course, want to give these drivers the proper credit with the proper pronunciations. I apologize for not checking as we go. But again, this is our third race, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Second race in Division 1, third race with MidWest. So we are still learning all of the ins and outs of these teams and the grids.
By the third race, we will get pronunciations for everyone, or at least part of them. I was correct too, Valentine confirming it, and I just looked it up. Haas has retained both Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hulkenberg for 2024. So Haas is all set. I know. Just say it. I know you want to do it.
Hulkenberg. All right.
There you go, Danny Ricciardo Jr.
There you go. I can't quite tell from the screen, but it looks like the rain may be lightening up ever so slightly. The track doesn't look as slick as it was at the start of the race.
Valentine said, no, please, it's funny. It's indeed funny to many. So
no,
maybe an end of the season, that will be like our off-season video, will be us learning how it was actually said. We've been notorious in a lot of our tournaments for saying names completely wrong too. It's hard with video games because they have really creative usernames.
Is Valentine saying that I kind of look like DR3? I hope that's not the I hope that's not the comparison that we're making there. I mean,
I'll post
I do
the
love
comparison photo anyway in a little bit. Got Palmer getting very close to NLR Mackie. Almost looked like an overtake. Let's pull up some advanced details. Position changes. We have GSR Edwin holding pole position, but Race Day, Scarenzi, and Cali Rob all moving up 2 positions. So they were formerly 4th, 5th, and 6th, now 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. NLR Mackie and Got Palmer dropping down. Scarenzi just setting the fastest lap at a 1:24.47.
That's not surprising there. We know Scarenzi has pace. He's had it for eight races already this season.
And here was the stat I was looking for. The fastest lap from all of our drivers currently. Scarenzi with the fastest at a 1:24.47. And then I believe Race Day was second with a 5.61. GSR Edwin with a 6.69. But it looks like Cali Rob actually has a 6.20, so he would have the 3rd fastest lap as it stands.
Keep an eye on that 10th place position, that second Haas, Posh Josh in the Haas. Behind, here we go again, Lance behind the second Red Bull along with Coleslaw. But Posh Josh definitely has pace above those 2 Red Bull. Red Bull sitting at a 121. Posh is sitting at a 120. So we may have a few racing moments at the bottom of the points.
We also have Scabney right now down in the Ferrari, getting very close to AlphaTauri, Fireballer, and Posh Josh directly in front of him. So we're seeing a battle starting to form for the 10th place, which in real F1 is where you see the point cutoff. However, in this league, everyone does get points. But, of course, every position is more. You just want to gain as many as possible, and it's cool to see that battle for 10th.
Mitch, if this was an actual broadcast, I would not be pointing this out, but this is a YouTube live stream of a sim race. What did you just call our 11th place driver? Never mind.
Did
It was
I say
words
something
out.
wrong?
That was just fire. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was just funny. Sorry.
It's 10 o'clock for us, and we worked all day. We were talking about this earlier.
Believe me, yeah, we definitely, both of us had the giggles. We are not 100% tuned in right now, but we're going to make it a fun stream, darn it. If it's the last thing we do, we are going to make this quite an exciting race, but these drivers don't need too much help as we watch NLR Mackie, and now up to race day, under half a second behind our race leader, GSR Edwin, who has led, I believe, this entire doggone race.
They have since the very beginning. I don't think Galt Palmer was in second place at the start of the race, and he almost edged GSR Edwin out in the first corner, but I think Edwin has truly held on. However, race day is getting closer and closer. Looks like the actual rainfall has stopped on the track, so these guys will be starting to wait until the track dries up just a little bit to start considering maybe switching tires. We're at lap 11 out of 36. Galt Palmer, by the way, just jumping over NLR Mackie, so he moves up into 5th position. But they will wait until this track dries a little bit. They could maybe wait a couple more laps and then put on hards for the rest of the race, or switch to softs and do a 2-stop. GSR Edwin once again sliding out, and that's going to let race day put on the Jets. Just some brilliant defending, though, by Edwin, not giving him room to pass.
Wow, this is incredible defensive driving from the pole sitter. This Haas is just trying to get through. We saw a few overtakes in this corner earlier, but it's not going to look like race day has the pace. GR Edwin able to hold first place for now, but that squirrely, that oversteer does not bode well for the Mercedes if that continues through these next few laps.
The other thing that's happening is now Scarenzi is able to really close in on these two. When you see drivers start to battle for a position, like GSR Edwin and race day, they tend to go a little bit slower because they're battling, they're checking their rearview mirrors, they're trying to block someone or not enter a corner on the ideal line just to really slow down a person, and whoever's behind them starts to close in fast. So they have to be careful that they don't hold each other up and Scarenzi's able to see a gap and shoot by both of them.
Oh, we may very well see Scarenzi in the Aston Martin take a 1-2 overtake. What a moment that would be. But we can't predict the future. Only time will tell. And it's going to be very interesting to see the strategy, as Mitch said, as this track dries up. The rain has stopped. The track will slowly progress to dry. But with a race this tight up in the front of the pack, it's anyone's guess as to what this strategy is going to be for transitioning back onto slicks.
This is also one of the areas, I mean, you can see the tracks drying up on the driving line. So if you're feeling brave, if you're feeling confident, you can put on better tires earlier. But if you go off of the dry spot, you're gone in the car. The other strategic move sometimes you'll see is someone who's very confident on driving on a slightly slick, rainy surface with those tires. If they box first, that can start to scare everyone else into boxing early to try and get those better tires on, even if they're not as confident.
We also have somewhat of a race in 6th place. Galt Palmer looking like he's able to keep it around half a second behind NLR Mackie, bouncing up sometimes to 0.4 of a second. So there may be some issues with the Aston in terms of just cornering and navigating these wet corners, much like we saw earlier with Edwin in the Mercedes.
I also believe that Galt Palmer was above Mackie at one point in time, so I think they've been trading back and forth a little bit.
That's always fun to start racing with one of your buddies like that. You know, you're able to let everything else in the race kind of fall away, and you're able to just focus in on that one driver. It's always a lot of fun, competitive spirit, definitely at play there.
That's when you really get to see, I'd say, true champions come out too. It is enough to focus on a track like this and just drive your car on the line, lap after lap after lap, 36 laps. When you have to start really thinking about overtaking and someone overtaking you and like battling another car out there, it becomes you almost need two brains in your head to do those sorts of calculations.
Yeah, and most of the time, once you and I, if we're in a race, just the two of us, having fun, that's usually where my faults start coming out and showing themselves. When you start to come up behind me and I start thinking about everything except my race and my drive. I'm thinking how to stop Mitch. How can I prevent this? And there he goes. And oh no, that's a wall. Never a fun time.
Oh yeah, it's fun to watch some of those pro drivers. I know on my racing team, whenever they're passing me and I let them through, I just tell them, go get them, go get the guy in front, because I know they're going to start to really put the pressure on.
There you go. It's like the whole trope whenever you're watching your favorite sports team lose in the playoffs. Well, at least that person. I just hope that the team that beat my favorite team goes on to win it all, because then it will have been worth the loss.
Exactly. Have a bit of a competition going on here in 12th, 13th, 14th with Fireballer, Electric Blade, and Nikki. It also looks like Race Day and Scarenzi still holding strong up there in the top three. That's really going to come down to the pit stop. Whoever pits first, and then if the other drivers who stay out, if they're able to, create enough of a gap pit and come back out in relatively the same position, I think that's going to be the really, really interesting part of this race.
We may have some action. One driver above you in 13th place, Electric Blade, was able to get it down to 0.2 of a second, but looking like Fireballer was able to get that gap back, encroaching on the AlphaTauri drastically during that sector.
He was, and it looks like he's going for a bit of a pass on the inside of the corner.
Oh, he's going to...
Oh, he might try to undercut, though. He might
get it.
Oh, we got a caution flag. It looks like maybe a McLaren, and Nicky is out. He has spun around 360. I think he was involved with a bit of a tangle with Houdini in the McLaren. That's going to cause a shakeup in those positions for sure.
These McLarens today, can't trust any of them. Jeez.
Sometimes, no. I don't even know what happened there. I mean, Helgelin, we'll find out eventually who was responsible for that.
Electric Blade now 1/10, able to take it past Fireballer into 12th place. What a race between these two, and the AlphaTauri remains.
Oh boy, we're
these
going
two
back to back, and then I think
are neck and neck. He might have pace.
Come
on!
This is a beautiful battle.
Oh, I can't help but have a fan moment.
We also have
right
NLR
here.
Mackey and Got Palmer trading positions. Palmer got the edge and then dropped right back down into 6th place. All of a sudden, these drivers are getting very confident in going for the pass.
I wonder if that is grip playing a factor now. This track definitely clearing up. We're starting to see the cloud cover lighten up as well. These drivers are getting more grip, and we're seeing that with some more aggressive moves and some definitely faster lap times.
I'd say at this point in the race, too, it's hard to judge as a driver because as the rain clears up, the grip in the car is getting a bit better. But these tires are getting older, so the grip's also getting worse. So it's probably stayed stable for a while because of the two conditions going in opposite directions. And then all of a sudden, once it's dry, those tires finally give out, it's going to drop drastically. So you might be taking these corners pretty confident. And then all of a sudden, you're sliding more than you expect.
Got Palmer has the hunt in 6th place, right on the tail of Mackey in the Aston Martin. That was almost a quick one as well, but Mackey was able to maintain. I'm still learning how to read the intervals and know when to switch and when to get excited. It's very interesting from the broadcaster perspective.
You are going to have that natural accordion of the time too. When you get in the corner, those times gaps will get shorter, and then as they start to get on the throttle, it gets bigger. So it is hard to tell. A lot of drivers who are competing, they will tend to stick in that 0.4 to 0.6 range in the straights, and then in the corners drop down to about a 0.3. Once you see those times dip into 0.2, 0.1, that's when someone's starting to really make a move.
And Got Palmer was definitely within the 0.1, 0.2 range, but it looks like he was just slipped off of his racing line there. And Mackie was able to build that gap once again. Both of the Red Bulls still running back-to-back in 8th and 9th. That's an impressive showing to keep both teammates in the same positioning throughout this race. We'll see where they finish.
Yeah, I believe Sharia took that back too. I think Posh Josh and the Haas was able to get between them at one point in time, and then now has dropped down below the 2 Red Bulls. Callie Robb still sitting between the Aston Martins, and looks like they have about an 8-second gap between the 2 of them. Race Day, however, up at the top is really trying to make a push on GSR. Edwin getting close in the corner. Not enough, though, and he's going to start to lose a little bit of time. But this one's looking a little better. Has to hold off once again. Very tough in the wet tires. You don't trust the brakes fully to slow down. You can see Edwin start to slow down. Race Day has to hold back, but Edwin a bit of a slide. See if Race Day can manage the throttle exiting the turn. Not quite. Man, it's so tough out there.
Yeah, and again, this is such a difficult track. This is very much like a go-kart track. You know, this is something that a 5-year-old drew with a crayon with their non-dominant hand, and they said, yep, let's make it. This will work. But, you know, this Haas is absolutely pushing as hard as they can. We have that one very long straight, but other than that, you are riding these front brakes for darn near the entire lap. So making sure that you are able to get off of those brakes with enough space to cool them down before the next corner to prevent a lockup is crucial. Posh Josh sitting with a new fastest lap as Race Day continues to press on our race leader as we reach the halfway point of this race. Netherlands, Zandvoort, Division 1, MidWest eSports, Formula 1 Racing. There it is, Race Day able to take the lead from Edwin after 18 laps of supremacy.
What has Haas gotten into? What has the Chief told them? Because Race Day took the fastest lap in 2nd place, and then Posh Josh and the other Haas took the fastest lap in 10th place, and then Race Day took over 1st place just after that. These drivers in lap 18 just flipped a switch, turned it on, and they are now starting to take control of this race.
Zandvoort, the official second home of Haas Motorsports.
In the second half of the race, I mean, you say halfway point right now, and they have just taken over. So now it's going to get interesting again with the pit strategy because Haas is in the lead.
Yeah, we may, depending on how quickly this track can dry off, we may very well see a wet to straight to softs to finish this race. I wonder what the tire wear looks like on these kits right now. We know that the wets are very substantial and, you know, wear very slowly compared to the slicks. However, there will be some effect as this track dries off, warms up, and starts chomping away at that rubber.
We do have Aero Racing and Lancy in a battle. They've been trading positions on and off. Looks like they're going toe-to-toe once again, getting very close in one of these bank corners. Oh, and gets pushed off of the track, I think, by Lancy. Aero Racing had no room to go, but he is able to take over the position for now. They traded position 3 or 4 times just in that little back and forth.
Took a second to check out the lawn seats and then made a beeline away from these Red Bulls. Get away from me, please. I have some driving to do.
Might be checking to see if the grass is still wet because maybe you could drive on there, get a bit more traction with those tires. So now the Red Bulls back again in 8th and 9th place. Aero Racing Design still holding in 7th with Alpine. It sounded like a little bit of a lockup in the tires too from Red Bull. I think from the Amazon graphic we got earlier, Race Day, a 1:19.6. This track is getting faster and faster. And then Callie Robb with the 1:19.6 in the Ferrari. So now we have different drivers joining the fastest lap party.
We have heard from the McLaren garage race pit managers have confirmed that VTEC did have a collision with Helgian. You do see a penalty for VTEC down in 17th place, but unfortunate for the for the McLaren as they lost one of their 2 cars very early on in this race to a collision, not a technical, not a driver issue.
And it looks like we have our first driver in the pits changing out tires. Fireballer with AlphaTauri. Looks like he's going to keep intermediates on. I mean, it's still pretty wet out there. The Amazon graphic, I think, showed that halfway through the race, you could do a 1-stop or you could do a 2-stop. showed intermediates either way. So any time now is when drivers should be pitting, unless they want to try and hold out on these intermediates to see if it gets dry enough to go on to racing tires.
Yeah, this 1, 2, 3 is such a tight race right now. It is seriously a gamble for any of them to take a risk at switching to inters. But I would assume that the minute we see race day duck in, you're going to see the other two follow suit. Our points leader, Scarenzi, making it known that he is still very much a part of this race, setting the fastest lap in lap 21.
We also have the Aston Martin of Mackey and Gott Palmer in the Williams going toe-to-toe, trading places and corners once again. So these drivers are really battling it out. Look how close they are getting in these corners.
This is unreal. An absolute dogfight. We've been seeing them all day here in the Netherlands, but each one continues to just amaze more than the last.
As I say, Bone Crusher saying race day got this. He might. He has been pretty in control since taking over. That gap has been spreading. DRS is enabled once again. Was it off for the start? That's going to really change things up here. If the conditions are getting good enough to get DRS, we're going to be seeing more overtaking if that's possible.
Yeah, and that may prompt more drivers to jump in for a pit stop. Bone Crusher again commenting their 2 cents. Makes no sense to risk it on softs. He expects to see most of the drivers preferring the mediums when they eventually go in for a tire swap.
I believe, too, in F123 with the settings they have, you could get about 14 laps on medium tires, so they're approaching the window that they could put those tires on and feel pretty confident for the rest of the race. Scarenzi moving up into second place as all of the drivers decide to pit. Seems like race day made the choice and everyone following suit. DRS came on and they said, let's go, boys. Let's put on these tires. And race day coming out with the mediums. See if anyone else was a little brave. Bone Crusher calling it. Our analyst on the scene.
For
everyone
like
putting
30
out.
seconds. 30
Scabney.
seconds before.
Look at Scabney, though, the Ferrari. Excuse me. A Ferrari strategy, possibly putting on soft tires. That might pay off for him, though. Everyone else is on mediums.
Could see, at the very least, Scabney may be looking for a fastest lap, which could be attainable on softs. It remains yet to be seen. We did see Coleslaw and the Red Bull taking it up to second place. However, that wasn't due to a pit stop or the racing. That was just the sheer fact that they're still on inters. So it will be very interesting to see if they can continue to compete with GSR, Edwin, and Scarenzi now in third and fourth on mediums.
Another little interesting part right now, we do have Sharia, hasn't pitted yet, so is currently in second place. But with the gap to the leader, he will drop down quite a bit once he does decide to pit. Valentin also saying that softs are good for maybe 7 laps, and then it starts to struggle. Bone Crusher can push 10, definitely slower. Maybe that's on mediums, so they're going to try and hold out the end of the race.
Sorry, quick aside, Bones, are you racing right now? Like, if so, we need to definitely jump into a race at some point. But anyway, here we go. Sharia now jumping into the pits for a quick swap onto the mediums as he drops down into 7th place.
Yeah, so a lot of the drivers getting shaken up, but it looks like the top 6, 7.
Well, looks like we haven't.
7. Go ahead.
Alpha Tauri struggling in sector 2. That was a yellow flag. Looks like someone may have gone off track. That would have been Gunner back in the Alpha Tauri, but he's back on track, able to correct it as he heads into sector 3.
I was going to say, I think our top 7 is relatively the same with Race Day, Edwin, Scarenzi, Callie, Mackey, Gott Palmer, and Aero Racing. However, big news, the Haas, Josh, has jumped both of the Red Bulls and is now in 8th place. So Haas in 1st and 8th. This might be one of their best finishes if they can hold this out for 13 more laps.
Josh Haas on an absolute tear. You love to see it. And yes, this could be a hallmark race here in the Netherlands for the Haas racing team.
Race Day, setting a fastest lap, a 1:14, 1:03. Okay, just real casual out there.
Yeah, but yet again, let's also take into consideration Max Verstappen's challenge lap in Zandvoort in Formula 123 on a racing rig, setting a 1:13, and we are now setting a race pace just a second behind. These drivers were almost 8 seconds faster in qualifying than Max Verstappen, like the Max Verstappen. And now they are setting 1:13s. They're on pace during an actual league race.
And
Absurd.
like you said, Scavney putting on the soft tires, getting the fastest lap with a 1:13.87. We'll see if that holds, but he had only 2 laps on those soft tires. The next fastest lap was the 1:14.103, I believe. So that might be hard for them to beat Scavney. He may have just stolen some points.
Yeah, we'll see how DRS plays into this as we progress. We have 12 laps remaining here in Zandvoort. The track has cleared off enough for slick tires on the entire grid. This is turning into quite a race as I burp, sorry.
Oh, there we go. GSR Edwin now taking the fastest lap of 112.
112! Come on! Riding lightning out there in the Mercedes.
Man, they are just cooking. It seems like the chat is actually just slightly ahead. It's like getting the ESPN notifications. we are running a normal latency now on this stream because we found out that closed captions can be automatically generated if you have normal latency instead of low latency. So now in this way, we have closed captions on. Might be a little bit behind the live race, but it should be a better experience for everyone watching.
Yes. Much worth it. Accessibility, always worth the extra few seconds there as latency.
Also down in 9th and 10th, the Red Bulls are sitting pretty close with Lancey and Sharia Coleslaw, only 0.3 of a second. That gets into the interesting thing, right? Do you pass each other? Do you let one through? I know in a lot of racing leagues, the teammates will be in a chat together, just a PlayStation party or Discord party, only for race things. The only time they'll talk to each other is you should go past me or something updating. More fastest laps coming through. GSR Edwin, a 1:11.7, heating up those tires.
Valentine in the chat saying, yeah, don't worry, guys. They're going to start dipping into the 110s.
I'm scared.
This is just preposterous to watch. I mean, I can't set a 110 in Zandvoort to save my life. I could race for 40 hours nonstop, and I would not be able to set a 110.
No, not especially with the assist turned off. Maybe with what we play with right now, we could do that for one of these races, try and throw it on our fastest laps, compare our race net time, and then pull in one of these guys' times to just compare how they battle us.
DSR Edwin able to overtake Race Day in the late corner. Wow. You could see the speed in the camera shots. You could see the speed of that Mercedes just hunting down that Haas. Holy cow. Edwin is on a mission for this race. And we did I just see that we had an Alpine spun? Aero Racing was sideways on the track.
He might have been. Posh Josh and the Haas was able to move up into 7th place now over Aero Racing Design. So we saw Race Day drop into 2nd and then Posh Josh move up into 7th. GSR Edwin with a 1:11.511, just setting fastest time every single time he goes around the circuit.
Rubbing it in at this point.
Nuts. Crazy, right?
With no side pods to boot.
No.
There was no update to include Mercedes side pods. So he's running a very, very wonky aero package right now. Doesn't totally matter when we're running equal performance on all of the cars today. But still, you love to point it out. That car looks funky, and it is commanding the entire grid like the beast it is.
Bone Crusher bringing up another point that a lot of these drivers would have set up the car beforehand for either wet or dry conditions. So that might explain why we're seeing a lot of little shakeups here and people starting to either drop or climb on this board. If they were set up for the wet conditions, then their car is going to be performing a bit less now. Or if they set it up and we're just waiting for this moment for the course to dry up, they're really starting to heat up. And I feel like that might be Edwin in this case. Yeah,
trust in your skill. Wait it out through the rain, and once it clears up, grip it, rip it, and take home some hardware. GSR Edwin just, on a mission from God right now. There's nothing else to say about it. What an absolute drive from the Mercedes. But I spoke too soon. Race Day will not allow Edwin to have the last word as he reclaims first.
I just saw that the times they close so rapidly up here at the top. All of a sudden, Race Day took over and Scarenzi closed in. I was looking at the gap to the leader and saw, the normal couple seconds between each driver, and then all three of these guys at 0 point something.
you start to understand why Crofty and the rest of the bunch have a producer that's switching all of their cameras. Nikki 66 has retired from this race in the Alpine. Not sure what that issue was, if there was a spin or not. It appears the car was stopped on the track. An issue with the Alpine. Unfortunate, as they lose out on on points.
Very unfortunate. We're going to get another virtual safety car out on the course. Not sure if we're going to see people pit under a real safety car. I might imagine they would all be throwing soft, but it looks like the leaders are going to go for that, except for Scarenzi. He's going to stay out.
As we know, Scarenzi can drive.
Was that an oopsie, or was that I'm going for this? He hasn't really gone higher than third in this race, so maybe he's thinking, I stay out, see what happens, right? If I pit, I'm going to come out in third. If I stay out, might be a good chance for me.
There may be enough of a gap now. Oh, this has just turned into a chess match. Will Scarenzi be able to hold it for the remaining laps here in the Netherlands, Division 1 racing in MidWest eSports? Will Race Day and Edwin be able to catch back up to the podium and make him pay for possibly what was a mistake?
So they got out there, they got in the pit and back pretty quickly. We're now out of the virtual safety car. So if we go to the leader, both Race Day and Edwin are 15, 16 seconds off of Scarenzi. Callie Robb, 7 seconds out. Mackie, 13 seconds out. So now this is Aston Martin's race, but look at the Haas's 4th and 6th place.
Once again, an unfortunate event for the two race leaders. Race Day still back up to 3rd place now. Back to 4th, struggling with this Haas as we have a collision. And we have another yellow flag. What just happened?
We're cursed. Oh no, he's backing out onto the track too.
Oh, I feel so bad.
Oh.
Hang it up. We're done. This was the last race for Nick and Mitch. The commentator's curse is real. It
was a curse for Edwin going into the pits. It was now a curse for talking about how Aston and Haas were battling for points. I mean, both of them were what? Like 1st, 3rd, 4th, 6th. They're very close in the constructors. And now Mackie looks like out of the race. He had to go into the pits and might have terminal damage on the car.
Wow.
Just horrible for Aston Martin now. Race Day is able to stay out and hold 8th place for now. Don't know if if his car's good enough to, hold on the rest of the race. There's going to be penalties.
Right.
Just tragedy, right? At the top of the board.
I would have bet money that the Haas had more damage in that collision than the Aston. I would love to take it back to see a replay as to what actually happened in that corner. Little bit of rubbing, little bit of contact, but as we saw, that Haas looked like it slammed into the wall in a pretty violent shunt, and the Aston Martin just tipping the front wing into the wall. But looks like that was enough for potentially terminal damage for Mackie. What an unfortunate turn of events here. Just 5 laps from the checkered flag.
And now, I'm just trying to pull it up. Red Bull Racing was the team behind Aston Martin. Red Bull was in 5th in the Constructors Champion. They're now in 4th and 5th place. So they're going to get more points. They are probably going to jump over Aston Martin. They might jump over Haas too at this point. That's going to be a massive shakeup.
We have driver's radio call. I'm going to try and do this as best as I can. Since we can't put it on screen, this is from Mackie. You send one, almost run me off, then you decide to play bumper cars. This is why I put you in a wall. Wow. Mackie not happy with the result there with Race Day 2016. Bit of back and forth. The stewards are going to have quite some work to do here following this race in Division 1. Bit of hot blood here in the pits now.
It's crazy to happen just late in the race. Oh, and we're seeing maybe just a bit of technical difficulties there. That might just be internet. I thought both cars, the Aero Racing and Lancey, were just going crazy on the track. Technical glitch. They're fine. Aero Racing, however, closing rapidly on Lancey. He's going to go for the inside move.
He have it?
Can he hold it off going in the corner? Lancey, the outside.
Oh, what a gamble, but it pays off for the Alpine. Wow, I really thought we were going to see another spin there with the front tire colliding from that Red Bull.
And, I mean, this is, again, Aero Racing kind of fighting for his life at this point because Alpine is in the lead over AlphaTauri, but Alpine, one of the drivers, DNF, and Aero Racing only in 5th place. So there are I think these gaps at the top of the Constructors' Championship, it's going to be insane when we finally see these points.
More words that will not be publicized on this broadcast coming in from Mackie. In summary, not happy. Unfortunate.
Scavney in the Ferrari also trying to make a move on the Red Bull, so they were holding strong, but now they are starting to lose a few positions. Let's see if anyone put on fresher tires. Just race day got Palmer and Fireballer, looks like, and Edwin, only ones that pitted. Obviously, we talked about Edwin and didn't know if Scarenzi made a mistake or not, but Scarenzi in the lead, did we get another spin?
No, well, I was watching the Ferrari. Scavney in 5th, able to overtake Lance Lee's Red Bull, and a bit of back and forth there.
But yeah, car,
virtual safety car,
full safety car.
Oh my!
We have a full safety car now. I did not see what happened, and there's only 3 full laps left. I mean, let's see where Scarenzi is at on the track. There's only going to be 3 laps left with a full safety car. It might finish under safety car, or we might get 1 lap, but that's going to allow Callie Robb and Sharia Coleslaw and Aero Racing to close these gaps to the lead.
Wow. Did we confirm whose issue that was? We do have the McLaren, Houdini's McLaren, in the pits now. Not sure if that was just a switch to softs or if that was to repair potential damage.
Scarenzi going into the pits now.
Got Palmer penalty speeding under penalty card. Hate to see it.
Do hate to see that. Does Scarenzi have enough of a gap to pit? I guess everyone's pitting, maybe to try and throw on some tires. So he's going to make it out okay. Yeah, I'd be scared. I mean, with what we just saw happen with
right.
Edwin pitting during the virtual safety car and Scarenzi jumping, and then Scarenzi deciding to pit in the lead with only a few laps left under safety car. And look at that. He's going to pull up right behind the gorgeous Aston Martin safety car.
Wow.
I'm glad I'm wearing that hat.
Keep your tongue in your mouth, Mitch.
Okay, I have a picture on my desk of that car.
It doesn't surprise me one bit. I'm surprised you don't have a little Hot Wheels car up there, too.
I have the Lego James Bond DB5 sitting on my bookshelf.
Oh, we're hearing boop, boop, boop from the Haas garage. Posh Josh, nice brake check race day. Not sure if that is in relation to Mackey's incident or if that was something that just occurred under safety car. Looks like race day making some enemies here. They drop from glory from that podium spot down into the grid.
That's teammates too. Haas now out.
Posh Josh is out.
Yeah.
Oh no.
The last 10 laps been catastrophic for some of these teams. Is the safety car going in?
I had 3.3 seconds, so I don't know why you would do that.
Just absolute drama. I also saw over in the MidWest eSports Discord under media, someone, Valentine, clipped our video and it just says the curse on display. So I'm very excited to see which clip that is. Probably the Aston Martin crash situation that we watched.
Yeah, I'm going to try and watch this back. We have 2 laps remaining. Nah, it's not worth the time. We got 2 laps remaining here in the Netherlands. All eyes are on Scarenzi.
Look how close it is here. I think we might see another little bit of danger. Oh, man, all these cars are packed in.
Callie Robb, Aero Racing, both trying to claw for a podium spot here.
As much as it stings to see it, like what's kind of happened with some of these teams right now, it is very exciting to see the final 2 laps with all of these cars in half-second gaps.
Oh, of course.
When you're not the driver, may I say.
Well, we have another shout in the Discord from Posh Josh, commanding us you and I, Mitch, down to D2 next week. Zero luck for Posh Josh since we have assumed the D1 stream. Very sorry.
Saw Cali Rob too, his avatar waving to Sharia Coleslaw, maybe a little bit of bumping or just doing a nice little Fernando bye-bye as he passed and took second place. Sharia Coleslaw in third place. What a change on this leaderboard from 10 laps ago when everyone was settled into position. Seemed like there was maybe a couple guys trading positions and that was it, to just absolute chaos.
Wonderful to see Cali Rob in the Ferrari now taking second place in the final lap of the race. Was able to set a fastest lap or two during qualifying, stuck it out, and it looks like he may finish in second place behind the driver's leader right now, Scarenzi. As long as everything remains kosher, this may be what we are looking at. But it's not if Era Racing has anything to say about it, hunting down Sharia's Red Bull.
Other problem is, what do we watch here at the end? Because Scarenzi is going to cross the finish line first, and that's always great to watch. But you have Aero Racing Design and Sharia Coleslaw just duking it out for the final place on the podium.
We have to watch the fight. We have to watch the fight, right?
We have to. Let's go now, Scarenzi. No, never mind. I don't want to put a curse on him with the final going into the final corner. I shouldn't say anything.
You keep an eye on the intervals. I'll keep an eye on the final straight. Here we go. Scarenzi heading into the final straight with no contention, looking like he is going to take yet another win here in the Netherlands. Scarenzi in the Aston Martin continues to lead the MidWest Racing eSports Formula One Division 1 driver standings.
Wow, I can't believe you got all those words out. I couldn't even fact check if you actually got it right or not.
I almost passed out.
Take it.
We're there. The rest of the pack is filing through across that finish line. We have Fireballer, Gunner, and VTech yet to cross as they make their way. Oh, yeah, we are starting to see some driver chats coming in over on Discord. This one is going to be interesting to see how it plays out in the paddock and in the steward's room as they review this footage through the weekend. But what a race from Scarenzi, finishing, starting off in a suboptimal position, but able to stick it out and find the win at the end. Driver of the day going to none other than Sharia Coleslaw in that Red Bull, holding that pack with their teammate for quite a long stint there. But yeah, able to squeak it out at the end.
Just wow, what a race.
Yeah, wow is right.
Scarenzi immediately posting the Fernando nice reaction. So I think I'm not going to take all the credit. He's a great driver, but I was wearing an Aston Martin hat and maybe helped a little bit. Maybe, we bless some drivers and we curse some drivers. Can't wait to see the final results of all of this after stewards look at the footage, after they, compare the times, after they hand out the driver's points, the championship points, the fastest lap, the quali, the highest moving driver, all of that stuff. I think Division 1's just getting even closer as the season moves forward.
Yeah, this season is heating up, to say the least. Cali Rob in that gorgeous Ferrari, starting in 6th, finishing in 2nd, but also taking fastest lap with a commanding 1:10.4. It doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, and thank you, Valentine. It looks like donating $2, grade A+ stream. Thank you so much. We always use that stuff for just making these streams even better. And we love to see people tuning in, watching these races before and after.
Yes. As we hop back, looks like Mitch's camera decided to crap out. I believe it stopped in lap 13 or so. But we'll be able to close out this regardless. The McLaren, at least one of the McLarens finished today's race. Oh, there's the Aston. Here we go.
The jacket came off too in lap 25. It was getting too hot in here.
It was getting a little sweaty there halfway through the race. I'm ordering a standing desk, so I can't wait to set everything up so I can be moving around. I know.
The sweat.
We will definitely be sure to pay attention as the stewards roll out their rulings on all of the incidents, all of what we saw today. And we will be sure to recap that ahead of next week's race. Mitch, where is this traveling circus headed for next Thursday?
Really put me on the spot, but I have it here. We are going to Canada.
Hey, someone's home country, eh?
I am excited for that one. That one we can race and show our fastest times because I do love that track.
We sure can. Yeah, we'll be sure to jump on our rigs, and before qualifying next week, we will show what the broadcasters can do. Spoiler alert, it's nothing compared to this grid.
It's
but
a lot of time spent with the Wall of Champions. We can just leave it there.
yeah, we've had some very infamous races between the two of us in Montreal, but we'll be very excited to take these cars on the road. We have a road race next Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Nick and Mitch. As long as MidWest will allow us to retain Division 1, we will be back for week 9 of the Division 1 season. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining in today's race in the live stream and in the replays. Until next week, I'm Nick.
And I'm Mitch.
And we'll see you in Montreal.